Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Manifest Season 4, Episode 7. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. This is a very sad episode, and I kind of figured a good chunk of the way into the episode how it was going to play out. It's sad because obviously Cal got all this news, and he's not trying to tell his family because, yeah, he's in this awkward space with his dad right now, but also it's like, right, they just got Eden back and he wants them to focus on that. He doesn't want to worry them about like, hey, I'm dealing with what I'm dealing with, especially for him. It's like, he wants to say like, oh, it's nothing, because maybe on some level he feels like it might be something more, because he didn't just pass out. He also probably did tell Zeke about him coughing up blood and everything. So that's a key sign of like, this ain't just nothing. This is something. Because he's like, yeah, it's just a flu. It's like, he knows it was something more, but he doesn't want to get anyone involved. He doesn't want to even tell Sanvi, because if Sanvi knows, because Sanvi's practically family for him, and it's like, if she knows, then that's going to turn to a situation of everyone's going to know. So Zeke ends up taking her to someone a little off the books. Not really. She's connected, but not directly like Sanvi, and that's Alex. So, and obviously she's like, we're going to need some deeper test results, like bone marrow, to tell. But the fact is, these clear-cut signs seem like he's coming out of remission, and it is what I thought. It seems like, well, because like I said, I said leukemia before, because I think that's what he had, but I'm not sure. He just cancer. I mean, doesn't matter. I mean, I think maybe it does matter, but the end result is whatever cancer it is, he's got his cancer back, and this in turn makes Cal decide, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go live my life. Like, the fact is, I'm not going to just sit waiting around because I have no idea how much, now I'm older. I am able to kind of live my life more, and I might as well take advantage of it while I can. So he reaches out to Violet, and they hang out at karaoke and stuff. And I think for him, for the first time in forever, outside of just the family, he's able to just kind of be himself, because he told Violet who he really was. And for Violet, it's like, oh man, I didn't know that's who you were. Wait, weren't you like, yo? He's like, yeah, but I'm Cal. So that makes Eden's like, yeah, my sister. He's like, I'm so sorry. Like, because it turns out she actually helped Angelina at one point in time. And the moment that got introduced in the story, I was like, no. I was like, she's either the next victim or she's on the list. And sadly, we find out later on that she is the next victim. I'm like, oh, that sucks so much. Because we find out now in this episode what the connective tissue between all the victims are. Because Sam and Anna had a deeper connection. And that is, it turns out that Sam was looking after Angelina and Eden at some point in that 2-year period. Just like Anna was. So it's like that connects it. And now it's like, right. Because at the time, Violet didn't know who Angelina and Eden were, didn't even know what the circumstances were. She didn't know what Angelina had done at the time. And now she regrets not saying anything, but it's like, that just sucks. Because Violet didn't deserve that. Because, Michaela ultimately ends up figuring it out at the end of the episode. She thought she was seeing an X. What she was seeing was a crooked cross. Because the person behind all this is Noelle, Angelina's mom. Because I figured the moment like the victim started having that connection, I was like, the only person who'd had that motive to go after them would have to be Noelle, because she's getting rid of anyone that had any connection against her daughter. Because as long as she's punishing anyone that might, because she already looks at the passengers as something like unholy anyway, and then you add in the fact is that she sees this as a situation of helping save her daughter. Like, she's using like her extremist religious views to like do this, because she justified it because it's like, oh, I'm saving my daughter from like these probably like demonic forces of sort. And it's like, because they're the only one, we have no, like, she's like, oh, because, when she brought Angelina back, because she had brought it up to Angelina, like, oh, like that episode, Egan was blackmailing her and being like, oh, do you know an Egan? And I guess Angelina remembers Egan and knows what kind of person he is. It's like, oh, he'll do this. So we have no idea where Angelina is right now. But I guess that also makes sense why Angelina went as far as she did. Because once again, like, I still say it doesn't change the fact of what Angelina did, but the fact is that her mom doing what she's doing now makes you go like, right, she's sadly not cut, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree in this particular regard, because it's like, right, her mom ends up kind of doing what she did. And because in Angelina's case, it's like, right, I need my guardian angel and yada, yada, yada. And Noelle, maybe in her own, like, twisted mind, she's believing like, oh, I'm protecting my daughter by doing this. I'm trying to save my daughter from these forces that are pulling them back. Because obviously she's got no love for Michaela, because Michaela and them pulled Angelina away, saved Angelina from her, and it's like, well, God, who knows what the end result would have been. I mean, sadly, Angelina's already severely messed up because of her parents, but it probably could have been even worse if she stayed any longer with her family under those conditions. But she was like, right, I was trying to save my daughter. Anything that's going down, any terrible stuff that's happened is kind of on you. And you know, because they had even said, like, the coroner, the Emmy was saying, like, yeah, there's whoever did it, like, had to be maybe, 130, 135, and it's like, yeah, like, Angelina doesn't fit that, so it's like, her mom does, like, the Callings did lead, she was in the right place, she just went for the wrong person, and it's like, that's the sad thing about the Callings, they're not so clear-cut, and maybe you could have gotten to, Noelle before she ended up going after, Violet, and now, I mean, and that's the thing, the police were already looking for Angelina, and she still went out of her way to go after Violet. So I guess she must have asked Angelina, who knew about you and Eden this entire time, probably got a list of everybody, which is heartbreaking, just that it played out like this. And sadly, the moment Jarrett came back and Drea had that look on her face, it's like, oh, it's all gonna fall on Cal, because, for one, it's his jacket, I was wondering if it because it's his jacket and his DNA because they kissed and everything. But it's like, no, it's just because the camera shows he was the last one to be seen with her alive. And it just like, and for Cal, it's just like, right. Like the moment he was texting her, I was like, there's not going to be any, like, she's not going to respond. Because we saw the dots like she was about to text, but I was like, she got killed. Like the fact that she didn't respond, I'm like, that was all I needed to be like, yeah, she was the next victim. I was hoping at the very least she'd be next down the list. It sucks, you know, it's like, it sucks that this happened, and none of these people deserve this, you know, and the only thing that happened, and it's not even their fault, it's Angelina's, like, because of her and her twisted family, like, this happened. It's like, there's even more blood on her hands now, and maybe the argument is, maybe that's what Adrian's calling was trying to show him, that he had even more blood on his hands now, because if he had never taken Angelina back to her mom, none of this would have happened. If he had just probably left her alone, maybe she would have found her way back home on her own, or maybe she would have just laid there, or just something. Who knows? Like, Adrian just keeps making mistake after mistake, but trying to do the right thing, you know, and it's just like, I don't know. If he hadn't, I mean, well, that also means Adrian's on the list as well. I mean, because I would make the argument, technically everyone that was there would be on the list then, like all those passengers, because they were there when Angelina was doing what she was doing. Once again, they were they're the witnesses to everything that she did. So that's also extra reason why, like, Violet had to go. So, like, everyone that was there with Adrian, including Adrian himself, is going to potentially be a target, which also means Egan can end up being a target too, which I'm not too heartbroken about, but that's a possibility. Just because he knows about Angelina, so it's like he needs to be taken care of type of situation. I don't know. But it's like, yeah, that there's a long list of potential victims. And like I said, Adrian's kind of on that list. And like I said, that's why I think that's what the blood on his hands could represent, because he decided to take Angelina in and then also decided to keep that from the stone. Like, the choices he makes are having massive repercussions. And I think maybe that's what the vision's about. The blood on his hands might be about this. I don't know, maybe it's about him killing someone, whether it's like Angelina, whether it's Angelina's mom. Like, I'm going more towards the metaphorical blood on his hands, but maybe it is going to end up being literal blood on his hands. I mean, even the metaphorical blood on his hands is still literal blood because of the choices he made. There ended up being, like I said, this trickle effect down the road. So just something to kind of keep in mind as we go forward. So there's that side of things. Then there's the Zeke side of things. Obviously, like, he's still struggling with everything, and he was going to pick up Cal's medication from Alex, but he gave it back to her because he's like, I'm 18 hours sober. He was literally about to walk back into a store when Alex contacted him about Cal's medicine, just because he was about to buy more alcohol, but he ended up checking. But obviously he had the state of mind to be like, no, do not leave these pills in my hands, especially when I'm already, like, I'm only 18 hours sober. And for him, he breaks down being like, I haven't even told Michaela, like, he's afraid that she'll, like, be so kind of disappointed in him. But she understands, like, obviously, addiction isn't like something that just goes away. It's a lifelong thing. Plus everything I thought was so interesting when he kind of broke down and talked to Alex. He was like, I was so focused on taking care of everyone else's pains. I didn't focus on, like, and remember, yeah, I've got my own to deal with, my own that I'm, so that's why, like, he's like, I've basically stuffed myself with so many other people's pain that I haven't, left enough room to deal with my own. So, and obviously Alex talks about, like, right, like, secrets, like, can, like, kind of be a burden to you, like, don't kind of let them drag you down. So we do see him at a meeting at the end of the episode, so he is going through the meetings, he's doing what he needs to do. And it's interesting too with the Alex inclusion because a big focus of this episode is Sanvi trying to get a better understanding of the callings and trying to tap into the divine consciousness. So she needs a sapphire, but the problem is she doesn't quite know how to implement it. I love that she takes apart the laser that they didn't buy, they were renting it for like 10,000. It's like, cool, you broke this apart and got the lens, but she doesn't know how to really take advantage of it, because the whole point is if they could like use sapphire to like tap into the divine consciousness, into these memories, they have limitless access to the callings. The callings wouldn't just come to them when, like, at a last minute. They'd be able to get ahead of everything instead of just these cryptic messages of pointing them in the right direction. Now we could be like a full step ahead. Well, that interestingly enough ties into Ben's side of things, because Ben ends up responding to one of Eden's callings. I still feel like every time I say her name, I'm saying Edith. I probably still have been. The name Edith, for whatever reason, comes a little naturally to me than Eden, and I think that's what's kind of messing me up. I don't know if that's just me in my head. I'm making a point of saying that, but I'm like, maybe I'm actually saying Eden the entire time, and I'm being extra crazy thinking I'm saying Edith. Either way, Ben ended up following one of Eden's callings, and it led to like this assisted living facility. And there he finds all the missing passengers that the Major experimented on. And he brings Zombie in, which I thought this is kind of this cute thing where he was like, oh no, hey, and kisses her and was like, oh, this is my wife. Oh, it's okay, darling. And they hold hands and everything. I don't remember if I ever talked about this in season 1. Maybe I did. Pretty early on in the series, I actually thought there was going to be a Ben and Zombie thing. Just because, obviously, like, Grace was in that complicated space with the whole, I want to say, Daniel situation. So, like, I thought there might have been, like, a Ben and Zombie, because they've always been very close, so that's why I thought something was going to happen. Like, I think that was, like, well before we found out about Alex and everything, so, I mean, none of that matters. I mean, I don't know, like, if Zombie could be bi, I don't know. But obviously, like, Alex is the person, like, she's most, like, caught up on it, because that's the person she loves. So, but yeah, like, pretty early on, that's what, so that like, them pretending to be a couple and everything, like, it meant nothing, but it's just like, it's just like, oh, like, hey, it just reminded me of that. Like I said, I don't remember if I talked about that in season 1, but I do remember having that feeling, wondering whether there was going to be a Benz and Zombie thing, but obviously there isn't. So, but, ultimately, they're checking in on the patients, because if they could, figure out maybe they could figure out, what's going on with them, like what their conditions are like. And Ben ultimately realizes, like, right, the reason why I was brought here is because it was a reminder of, and I think this is beautiful, kind of making this be what kind of fully drives it home. Like, it's been there little by little, but this really drove it home that, like, Eden led him to, this calling led Ben here because he needed to be reminded that, like, right, about the lifeboat. Once again, he was so focused on just himself and Eden that it's like, right, he needed a visual reminder of these are the people whose lives are at stake, kind of put it a little close to home to you, but being like, right, he remembers Marco, everything the Major was doing to Marco, and what kind of effect it had on Cal, because Cal was feeling Marco's pain, and he's just like, forgive me, I guess, like, for not getting to you soon enough, but also for letting it slip my mind that, yeah, all of you were victims of the Major. And in that moment, a tear comes from Marco. It's like, right, he hears you. He's there. That's his way of giving you forgiveness. And so this was an important, the callings basically, or rather Eden to some extent, tapping into divine consciousness, is giving Ben a message of, this is what, you've strayed from this path. It's like, you need to be back on this path, on the lifeboat. You kind of put it aside for so long, which Michaela's understanding of it, but for him, it's like, yeah, it's a reminder, like, yeah, I'm not, I'm so focused on Eden. Like, there are so many people that are in need when it comes to the lifeboat. I need to kind of get back, because they're, and, especially with this being the case, it's like, if we figure this out, I'll be around a lot longer to make sure that I can see you grow up, I'm talking to Eden in that regard. And so Sanvi looked at their files, and ultimately all their brain scans ended up lighting up. And it's like, what was also interesting too is, like, because obviously she's not, like, somehow she's tapping into divine consciousness on some level. Eden is, but maybe it has something to do with the sapphire earrings. Who knows? I should also note, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, do let me know in the comments down below, I think it's twins that play the role of Eden. Kind of like that, I want to say it's in Big Daddy. I want to say both Dylan and Cole both played that kid role in the Adam Sandler movie Big Daddy. I also want to say the same thing in, obviously, with Mary-Kate and Ashley in, Full House. I always think that's kind of an interesting thing. Like I said, I saw it like maybe like the first or second episode, and I completely forgot to comment on it. And it just hit me. I was like, because like the actress who plays Eden, like, they both have the same last name, so I'm like, it might be a twin thing. Like, they alternate between them playing that role, which I think, I don't know. I think from a filming perspective, I always think that's kind of I don't know. There's something cute about that, knowing like, oh, it's twins being used to like play the same character. I don't know. Maybe that's not the case. I assume it is, but maybe it's not. Either way, putting that aside, Zombie, at least in the case of all of them, it's like, right, so the Major's experiments tapped into divine consciousness, but she never utilized any sapphire. So it's like, if that's the case, then how did she do it? And it's like, Zombie wants to replicate. Obviously, she doesn't want to do it to people, but she wants to understand what the Major did, because it's like, find out what she did and don't, like, do what she did, but also like the do's and don'ts of what she needs to do to tap into divine consciousness. It turns out, in fact, that Dr. Gupta has actually got something to do with this, because she actually did the intake for the some of those victims, and it's like, wait, why didn't she say anything? Vance is like, probably didn't want to admit that she had anything to do with, like, you won't gladly admit that you took part in some people getting tortured, so that's definitely going to be interesting to see where things kind of go on that front. But for Sanvi, this is, like, if we can figure this all out, this might be their chance to live their lives, to have a chance to, because after everything went down at the end of season 3, when the government shut down their facility, she couldn't even think about anything past June 2nd, 2024. It's like, we're going to die. Like, there's no saving us. Like, we're at the end of our rope. Like, we got nowhere else to go. And her dad kind of pushed her to, like, no, try and, what about Vance? It's like, well, at that time, Vance went dark. I mean, because he was probably pleading with everyone to make something happen, but he took what he had and gathered the resources, and obviously eventually reached out to Sanvi when she was at a very low point. She had kind of given up. She was trying to reach out to Alex, but she decided not to, because for her, it's like, Alex wasn't responding, and then she ended up accidentally running into Alex at the bar without Alex probably never knew that this happened, but it's like, oh, saw her with her husband and everything. It's like, oh, you're so happy. So, and her and the bartender end up like hooking up, and she was going to leave a message for Alex, being like, you know, if I had more time, like, I'd kind of, she'd make more of an attempt for them to be together because it's like she loves her. That doesn't make that situation any easier with the whole, like, right, she's married, kids and everything. That's the whole, you know, complicated bag when it comes to Alex. But, because if I remember correctly, wasn't the whole Sanvi and Alex thing an affair to begin with? I believe it was an affair, but obviously, like, when Sanvi was gone, well, it might have been before Sanvi was gone that, like, Alex chose her husband over Sanvi. It's like, right, I'm married, I have kids, I'm choosing my family over love type of thing. I don't remember. I feel like that might have been the circumstances. I want to say it was an affair. I just don't. Maybe I'm misremembering. Either way. But she deleted her message that she was going to send to Alex, kind of like permanently giving up, you know, because she didn't believe she had any time left. But now it's like, right, Vance gave her, reinstilled her faith and believing like, hey, I have a second chance. I can, I can find a way for us all to live longer past our death dates. So with that, obviously, Samvi's got Alex on her mind, and Alex has got Samvi on the mind too. Did I just say the same thing? Samvi has Alex on the mind, and Alex has Sanvi on the mind. It might have been what I said just now, but that's why I had to bring forward. I was like, wait, did I just say the exact same thing? Either way, I think it is a nice parallel with, like, Ben kind of finally getting back on board. At the same time, we're getting flashbacks about Sanvi kind of, like, feeling lost and not having faith about everything. But now it's like, no, like, that faith being restored, and now the same thing kind of happening for Ben to some extent. So there's good along with all the tragedy that kind of, you know, ended up falling out in this episode. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see where things go from here. Obviously, Jarrett showed up at the end and warned, like, hey, Cal needs to go on the run because they believe Gabriel is their guy. And if they look into it and find out about him actually being Cal, then that's going to be a whole bag of worms they're going to have to deal with. But then on top of that, it's like they've also got to find Noelle because she's definitely, you know, responsible for all of this now that Mickey kind of figured it out. So we'll see how things play out going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.